Welcome to the DHL Supply Chain Pricing Power Index update. I'm here with Andrew Cox. Andrew, what's the latest?
Anthony, we got another 5-point move this week towards the carriers. This marks 7 weeks in a row since that first week of May where we had a low point, a series low of 10. We've just steadily gained. The carriers have continued to kind of claw back some of that pricing power. And really it comes on the back of things that I'm going to echo from Luke and from Zach. The volumes remain elevated. They've ticked up again this week. That's a good sign for carriers. It's good for both parties here, but it's especially good for carriers because it's giving them some options, and we're starting to finally see those options being taken out and rejecting some of those options, and that's in that outbound tender rejection index. Again, as Zach said, the 7.5%, it doesn't mean that much. The point is that it is moving upwards, and it's moving up faster than it had been in previous weeks, so that's a really good sign for carriers. And it's really happening all over the country, as they both mentioned. I mean, we've seen a lot of tightness on the West Coast. These colors here, basically anything darker than this FreightWaves blue is indicating a double-digit outbound tender rejection index. So you can see that there is capacity leaving the middle of the country and heading towards the ports, as I saw Zach and JP talk about it on the spot today.
Right, and Andrew, just from all the charts that you just showed us from just now, we have the PPI up to a 40, we have volumes at a high, we have our tender rejections increasing.
Right.
If we weren't in the middle of a pandemic, we would never have known, just given these stats.
No, that's the thing. I mean, I've had a lot of data surprise me over the last few weeks, whether it's consumer spending data or outbound tender volumes. I mean, things are moving on some good cylinders here for the carriers right now. I mean, we're just 6-7 weeks removed from the lowest print in history at 10%, or at 10 on the volume, or on the power index. Excuse me. Now we're at 40. I expect us to see a continual grind upwards towards a balanced market. I'm not sure we get towards that full carrier mode, because as the two men before me mentioned, July is typically a softer month. We probably will see some volume fall off there. I don't know how sustainable 11,000 is through the end of the summer, really.
And you hinted towards some actions in July. Expectations or your outlook for the index moving forward?
I'd say the end of July, so that would be about 6 weeks from now. I would expect a balanced market. I think things will cool off a little bit on the volume side. I do think capacity will continue to kind of band up. That's something that we hadn't seen in the previous weeks, and something that actually had been surprising us. We had expected capacity to kind of pick up and tighten a little bit faster than it had with that elevated volumes, but that is really what we have seen over the past week. So I expect that to continue through the July 4th holiday, but that will be a big point in the market for us to see if the volumes can stay elevated after that holiday.
And maybe another shot in the dark here, with all these volumes, all this activity, are you thinking this is a lot from the consumer side of the economy or more manufacturing?
Well, I mean, I think a little bit of both play here. If we look at the Rust Belt area of the country, the Michigan and the Ohio's, we're seeing good volumes out of there, and I think that has a lot to do with the automotive industry getting back online. But the industrial production numbers that we saw from the government just this week, you know, it's still very depressed. Things have stabilized at a lower level. They remain low, but the consumer's spending a lot of money right now. We saw year-over-year spending only down 6% in May. That is surprising to me. I think that's really good. Again, that end of July, when the money runs out from the government, we'll see if that will continue. But for right now, the things are being propped up, and I think a lot of this is consumers, for sure.
Excellent. Andrew, and where can we find more of you and your team?
Yeah, you can go to freightwaves.com/passport for all the latest. We put out multiple reports a week. JP's team just put out one on UPS just yesterday.
Excellent. Andrew, thank you so much, and thank you so much for tuning in. That's going to do it for this DHL Supply Chain Pricing Power Index update. Be sure to tune in next week for all the latest.